Welcome to our video series, Industry Viewpoints, brought to you by American Bankruptcy Institute. Each segment will feature an expert providing views on the current state of a particular industry with a focus on what lies ahead. My guest on this edition is Scott Wolfson from the firm that bears his name in Troy, Michigan. We spoke with Scott on one of these programs just about a year ago to explore supply chain problems that were plaguing the entire country during the pandemic. Because supply chain remains a problem, Scott was a headliner on a panel covering that topic here at ABI's Winter Leadership Conference in sunny Palm Springs, California. Well, Scott, here we are again.
Good to see you.
Talking again about supply chain. So tell me this, compared to the last time we had a discussion, what's different and what's the same?
Well, good to see you again, Bill. There's a lot different and a lot the same. I was actually reminded on my drive to the Detroit Metropolitan Airport about the issues that the auto industry continues to face, because on the way we drove past a lot with hundreds of GM vehicles in assembly purgatory. Then as we got closer...
Whoa. You mean they can't finish them 100%?
Right. So they're manufactured and parked. The same with Ford. So they're waiting for some part that has not yet been installed in them before they can be sold.
You mean to tell me that because for the lack of parts, it's better economically for the manufacturers to complete what they can and let the car sit there for weeks or months?
It certainly seems to be, since I assume they're good stewards for their shareholders.
Oh my goodness. That's in an industry that prided itself on keeping inventories low, but
right. Well, they are low to an extent, because I personally have ordered a Bronco that I still haven't received, so perhaps maybe if Jim Farley watches, he can call me or help me out or something.
Well, that's interesting. So, all right, so I picture this, or that's the picture you made, I should say. These lots filled with almost completed cars. What else is going on that you have observed recently? So
there's still significant issues with respect to labor and shutdowns and some of the issues we talked about last time.
Now, how are things going with labor? Is now that people are not sick right and left, is labor more available, or is it a continuing problem?
It is a continuing problem. So we recently filed a bankruptcy, the first large auto supplier bankruptcy in Detroit that's been filed, I believe, since about 2009. And just an example in that case, that company had to take workers that they were already paying significantly above the labor market in the Southeast, move them to the Midwest where they were needed even more, and in addition to continuing to pay them above market, paying their hotel, their transportation to get there, their per diem. So labor is still significantly tight.
You mean to tell me that they had to move people 1,000 miles across the country because in the industrial Midwest there's not labor?
Unfortunately, I do mean to tell you that, unfortunately for my client, because that's not a sustainable business model where you've already got such small margins and you need to go to those lengths to meet your contractual obligations.
Goodness gracious, that is, and that's a troubled company in the first place that has got to go to that extent to stay in business.
That certainly contributes to the trouble.
Yeah. Well, what about the money side of it? I remember last time we were talking about this subject, we were somewhat amazed that there were as few bankruptcies as there were, and I think you, if I recall correctly, explained it is because money's cheap.
Yeah.
How is it now? Because rates have gone up.
Yeah. So there were, on the road to bankruptcy, seemed like there were so many off ramps to avoid it. So first you had, like you said, money was cheap. It was cheap and plentiful.
Yeah.
So we'd have a troubled supplier we'd be working with, and lo and behold, we could get a traditional bank to come and take out the prior financing. And failing that, there was so much M&A money on the sidelines that was chasing a limited amount of deals. If you couldn't refinance, you could often sell your way to success. But now things have obviously changed significantly. We've got we've got inflation, we've got significant interest rates, so it's making things a lot more difficult. And interestingly, another element to the equation as of recently, at least from what I'm reading, is there seems to be an element of demand destruction coming in right now. So you've got quite a soup of factors
demand, that
here.
means the consuming public is pulling back.
Right. So what I've read recently, there has been, there's starting to be a significant uptick in vehicle inventories, not just the ones that are on the lot unfinished, but ones that they're actually prepared to sell.
Oh my goodness. So they can't deliver your car, but others they can't sell.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's an interesting time, to say the least.
That's interesting. Mismatch between supply and demand.
Right.
Whoa. I'm glad I'm not an auto manufacturer, but I'm also glad I'm not trying to buy one right now, like you are, unsuccessfully. Well, what about steel as a major component of automobiles? How is that market these days?
My anecdotal experience from that is that steel prices have gone down. Steel is more available and more affordable.
And for housing, for instance, what about lumber? What's going on in that? Because, I mean, I remember myself trying to buy lumber to rebuild a deck about a year ago. I couldn't get it.
Timing's
I mean, I was
everything,
trying to get, I forget what kind of lumber it was, but I couldn't get it. Didn't matter. It was also, whatever there was, the price was 4 times what it used to be, but couldn't even get it.
Yeah. So no, just speaking with a client last week that's in the building industry, and lumber continues its downward trajectory from what I'm hearing. So it's available and cheaper. So maybe you want to redo a different deck now.
Well, well, it's available and cheaper, but then mortgage rates are at close to 7%, so people are not going to buying that houses that could be built, but you couldn't previously build. Oy.
And you still have to find a contractor to build your deck, which
Now
is
that
still
remains
a difficult thing to do.
That
right?
remains a problem.
Right.
That remains a problem because again, in our family, we've had difficulty finding people to do things. So it's very difficult. Well, in the auto industry, among the insiders in the business, people you as well, what are they seeing looking out about a year in terms of the supply chain and consumer demand and factors such as that?
Well, I think there's an expectation that demand is going to continue to take a bit of a hit. And then there's also the issue of the transition to electric vehicles. So you've got suppliers who continue on the combustion engine platform, and that demand is kind of on a death march to ending at some particular time, and there's continued reduction in that demand. And actually now you see headlines where companies are splitting their production of vehicles into an electric vehicle line and into a internal combustion engine line. So they're actually splitting those, which as a bankruptcy attorney and a pessimist leads me to think about good Caesars and bad Caesars, for example.
Right.
And you just wonder what assets have gone where, and I guess we'll see what happens with the combustion engine side. And if it does fail at some particular time, it fails far enough into the future to be immune from voidable transfer and fraudulent transfer type statutes.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the auto industry in particular, and really across the board everywhere, the smart theories going back 30, 40 years ago was, don't do it all yourself. Subcontract it because it's cheaper.
Right.
You can get suppliers to compete against one another to get the lowest price. You don't have the fixed costs of your own manufacturing plants, labor contracts, and things of that sort. So you had companies, Ford, GM, that were vertically integrated.
Right.
Made every cotton picking part that went into the car. Is there any move to go back in that direction?
Well, it's interesting because I guess I've been in the industry long enough to see where that happened, where there was vertical integration, and then the autos started spinning off some of those lower level supply chain issues. But then now what we're seeing, at least with respect to, for example, semiconductors, which that shortage is projected to continue, everything I read, through 2023.
Really?
And you're seeing...
then you may not be getting your car for a very long time.
I know, I'm not happy about that.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing that, and it's been in the news, some automakers like, I believe, if I remember correctly, GM, Hyundai, Ford, they're actually insourcing semiconductor chips and those components. And in addition, I hear with respect to the electric vehicle side that some of these automakers are actually partnering with mining companies to ensure the continued supply of the unique materials that are needed for that, whether it be lithium or nickel or something similar to that. So there's kind of a shift. And I do remember when there was a push from the OEs, you have to go to China if you're going to do business with us, be in China, be in China, be in China. And that didn't work out great.
So are you seeing people pulling back from China or trying to have alternate sources of supply other than China?
Definitely seeing more of a move to alternate sources of supply. So anecdotally, what I've seen is we typically have sole sources of supply with respect to these automotive components because it's the most efficient and economical way to do it. From my experience, I have seen more instances where the automaker has dual-tooled, where they've had two sources for a particular supply. Particularly if one has been in China, I've seen that done. But even when it's just been domestic, I've seen that done. And I've seen more of a hair trigger to make that call on some occasions when I'm working with a distressed supplier. Whereas
really?
I feel we used to have more of a runway to negotiate with the automaker before they did anything drastic. But I have seen on a couple of occasions where they have actually incurred significant costs to dual tool to move away from a supplier. So that's,
wow.
And maybe that's not representative of what's going on, but that's something that I've experienced.
Well, that proclivity to move away from a sole supplier, I guess, puts the fear of God in people who are not affected by that yet, because, boy, that really changes the leverage.
It also, it definitely changes leverage. It also does change the pricing for the automaker as well. But it definitely changes leverage. That's how we get deals done when we're representing a supplier is the fact that they need us.
Yeah.
So there has to be some negotiated solution to get to a solve for everybody.
Well, Scott, this is really interesting because what you're telling us is that I at least thought a year or 2 years ago that this was a temporary problem that would be solved when the disease is largely gone. But what you're telling us now is that we're in a different era, and goodness knows how this is going to end up.
I don't think there's a playbook for it, but I think that's what's going to make it fun.
Well, one thing is for sure, Scott. We ain't through, you and me.
We're not, all right.
No, we have to do this again about a year from now.
Sounds good.
And take the temperature of this issue once more and find out how it's evolved, because I can tell you, I never would have guessed that it has evolved in the way you've just explained. So,
well, I will look forward to that, Bill.
So I thank you very much for your insights. Topics similar to this will be covered at upcoming ABI conferences. To take a look at the calendar of events, go to the website, abi.org, and you will see a list of our upcoming conferences and the topics that will be covered at each one of them. And we thank you in the audience for tuning in. The Industry Viewpoints series in the upcoming days and weeks will have us talking with other experts about the future of industries that are, shall we say, affected by our unusual, if not turbulent, economic times. Until then, be well, stay safe, and a good day.